separately. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Nelson from Central Florida coming to you on Kiltz Health live streams 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursday. Welcome, everyone. And trying to go live on Instagram here. There we go, I think. All righty. So today we have Joe and Rachel, the 2KrazyKetos, and I am very happy to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
I'm in Central Florida, West Volusia County, and you guys are also here. You want to?
We're in. It's kind of it's a hard definition. We're close to Southwest Florida. I tell people, ask us where we are, and like we're in cattle country. We're about 40 minutes west of Sarasota, in that area. But we're smack in the middle of the state.
Won't you be my neighbor?
We live in cattle country.
Well, you are kind of the green. What was it? Was it Green Acres?
Yeah,
the
Definitely.
show. This is, you could even say the Beverly Hillbillies. They moved from the other way around, but so you moved from city to really country.
Yeah, we moved from Fort Lauderdale to the country so that we can be more self-sustainable. COVID taught us that, as weird as this sounds, that keto and carnivore is not sustainable, but not from the aspect of you can't keep doing it. It's that if you have another situation like COVID, where will you get your meat?
We noticed that, even in, it doesn't have to be as, grave as the Lord Voldemort ears. But just with hurricanes, we live in Florida. I'm a 7th generation Floridian. We're used to hurricanes. And, when the power goes out, the first thing that runs off of a grocery store shelf is what we eat. Like fresh food is what we eat. And it's usually the first thing to go. And, for us, this is all about health. It's not about weight loss. We hope everybody comes to this from a health perspective. We have lost a lot of weight by changing up our nutrition. But for me, it's all about brain health. For Joe, it's linked to his mobility. So there's really no way that we can just say, hey, if we lose power for 2 weeks, we'll just eat canned food. We'll just go back to the standard American diet for a little bit. We'll eat those ramen noodles because, for us, it's all about our health. And that's really not something that we can dip out on. And so we thought, boy, we've got to take this into our own hands. So yes, we decided to be the city mice that moved to the country and started a farm.
That reminds me, I gotta change my survival buckets of food because I bought them years ago when I was eating everything, and completely not appropriate now. If I had to go and deep into those, I'll be really sick really fast.
Yeah, our like survival bucket is like keto bricks,
beef jerky,
carnivore
bars,
so like keto chow, like where at least all we need to do is add a little bit of water, maybe some avocado oil, and we can survive and still be eating, a very low carb lifestyle.
How do you like the new carnivore bar? What is it? Apple pie?
I love it. It's my favorite. I love all the carnivore bars because again, it's something that is shelf stable. I mean, they literally last for 20 years, and it's beef and fat, and depending on the flavor, maybe a little bit of raw, organic, unfiltered honey. That's, to me, just a great thing to have. And I use them a lot, especially if I'm on the road.
And we make our own. That's something that is really important to us, on our channel, to share different tips and tricks for really making this life not just sustainable, but affordable. And, we grew up dirt poor. So it's all about what can you make for yourself. So we have a lot of recipes on making your own beef jerky, your own hot dogs, your own, carnivore bars. And we do have, a recipe for making your own pemmican. And all of these things just, I think, make you feel more empowered as a person to be able to take care of your health. You're really making your own medicine, right? Our food is our medicine. And I feel thankful to be more and more a part of the process.
Well, you do have a lot of recipes, period. You definitely have a lot of content. And what I, going back almost 3 years ago when I started doing a more strict ketogenic diet, I found you guys, and you were one of the many channels that I used to watch. And then about 2+ years ago, I went carnivore because that's what I needed at the time. No dogma here, but I have a comment. 7th generations Floridians.
Yeah, take a picture.
that it's a long history. I mean, that means that your first greats, whatever it was, that got to Florida were among just a few. I mean, Florida was mostly empty at that time. I wonder if they met Ponce de Leon.
Right? Definitely. My family background is Native American. A lot of my family came down, from the Carolinas. And something about Florida, it's always been a place of outlaws. And a lot of times, if you get to that Georgia line, they stopped chasing you. Once you got into Florida, they thought, man, let the swamp and, the crocodile, the alligators take care of you. But I think it made a very resilient family line. We were people who first worked on the railroad, and then also since a lot of my family is actually from this area in particular, this was the citrus belt, and so a lot of my family were orange pickers and people that raised cattle and that sort of thing. And so living off the land is definitely in my blood. We were all about fishing and hunting. And so it feels really nice to be closer to my roots that way. I do feel closer to my heritage in this way that we eat, because my family ate what they could hunt or fish, and they ate what grew in the garden. And then they just learned to kind of make that stretch. And so that's really, what we do now. And it's nice to be away from the ultra processed Franken food that my grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, who are even now buried just like a couple of miles from me right now, they wouldn't have recognized the food that we were eating pre-keto, but they would recognize what we're eating now. And I think that's a precious way that we can, revisit like our ancestors and kind of honor their memories.
So I don't know if you know this connection. Now, obviously, there were people living here before Christopher Columbus came to the Americas, right? But when we talk about the discovery of America and the discovery of Florida, did you know that Florida was discovered by the governor of Puerto Rico?
Yeah, definitely.
So Ponce de Leon was the first governor of Puerto Rico, and he discovered Florida. Not that it was really here all along with people in it. But before I forget, if you have any questions for them, we're gonna get to some questions with them. Just put them in the chat, QQQ, if you can, in front of it. So I have two of you, and both of you have very good stories of healing, which is what I'd like to concentrate here. The stories on healing and how you got there and why. So if you can, briefly, each of you, tell me what was it before you were keto? What got you there? And I called you, I don't know if you remember this, Rachel, this was probably a year ago. We had a conversation. I call you quasi carnivores.
Yes.
It's funny because, we were talking about it a little bit beforehand. It's what is your definition of carnivore? We eat 90 to 95% meat. Mm-hmm. And some people will say, well, then you're not carnivore. If you have a cup of coffee, you're not carnivore. I look at it as
if you had a berry, oh my God.
Exactly. And, it's funny. If you do some research, you'll find that there has never been a human civilization that is 100% carnivore, that's never eaten a plant, a berry, or anything. The closest is like the Inuits, But even them they ate about 95% meat, but they still ate seaweed and berries when they can find it. And so for us, we eat mostly meat, but if we go out to a restaurant, we'll eat a salad, we'll have a vegetable. It just depends on how we feel. But 99% of the time, what are we eating? We're eating meat. I was on the phone with my mom a little while ago because I've been doing some pressure canning of bone broth and meat from, chickens that we have processed. And I was asking her about things and she was like, are you growing vegetables? And I'm like, I don't really eat vegetables. And so she's like, well, you should, just for storage and things like that. But it's just not something that, we want to eat for more than entertainment. I think we get more nutrition out of our meat. So if your definition is you eat at least 80% meat, then we're a carnivore.
Yeah. I want to address something here. Many of you are seeing the two different displays that are going on YouTube, and Instagram is vertical. StreamYard puts out both versions to YouTube. So there is a horizontal version and a vertical version. That's what you're seeing. Someone was asking why it looks that way. All right. So please go ahead and give us your story, your brief story, because we have both of you, and I'd like to ask you questions about it. But for those that may not be familiar with you, here's your chance to tell us who you are.
So I guess I'm the first one that really came to this eating lifestyle. I have been obese my whole life, starting when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. I was a skinny towhead as a little kid. So for people who don't know what a towhead is, where your hair is pure white. And when I hit about 9 or 10, I started gaining weight, and it was just always a struggle. We recently talked about in one of the presentations that we did where, as a child, I think we were in Orlando, I always lost weight during the summer. I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. I would go away, when I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, I would go away to Boy Scout camp. But even if I wasn't at Boy Scout camp, during the summer, I lost weight. But during the winter, I would put it all back on. And why was it? It was because I wasn't as active. During the summer, you were doing things. But I was always this overweight kid. My mother was a medical oncologist. My father was a PhD clinical chemist who ran the labs that process all your blood work. And I grew up in a time where you had the craze of low fat coming in. For a mother who was an oncologist, all of her patients were elderly at that time. You didn't have 30-year-olds getting breast cancer at that time. And so she was always looking at what are we supposed to eat and following things like from Ansel Keys that we never ate beef. We only ate chicken. We drank powdered skim milk. And then the low fat craze came in where, everything was no fat, no fat, no fat. And as that came in, I gained more and more weight, not even making a connection to any of that. And I remember as a child, as I was getting heavy, my mother always saying, you don't want diabetes. If you get diabetes, that means that you're going to give yourself injections every day. It means you will never touch sugar again, because this was before medications where they're like, okay, now you can have sugar. Just, take this pill every single day. And so that was always in the back of my mind. And I would go up and down in weight. Well, when I went off to college, I really gained weight because in my house growing up, we did a lot of our own picking of vegetables and things like that. And when we did our picking of vegetables, we would can it. So we were never allowed to have sugared cereals. We were never allowed to have ragu tomato sauce or any of that kind of stuff. Everything was homemade. So when I went away to college, I was like, oh, I can have all this stuff that I wasn't allowed to have as a kid. So I ate a lot of fast food and the weight just piled on. And when I was 20 years old, I had a horrific car accident that shattered my ankle. And I spent 2 years on crutches. I was told I would never walk again. I'd lost all the blood supply to my bone, and that this was going to be a permanent thing for me. And so for more than 25 years, I was taking Arthritech, which is an arthritis medication, and I was taking painkillers like Oxycontin and Vicodin that were prescribed to me. And that was my life. After 2 years, I was able to walk and getting off of the crutches, but I walked with a severe limp and a lot of pain, and the weight would come off and go on and come off and go on. Well, In 2017, I had gotten really big. The last time I stepped on a scale at that time, I saw 297 pounds, and I said, I'm never getting on a scale again because I didn't want to see 300. So for me, in my mind, if I don't see it, it doesn't happen. So that was the last time I had gotten on a scale. Now, I will tell you, when I got on that scale at 297, I was like a size 38 pant and an extra large. By the time I found keto, I was a size 44 pant and a triple extra large. So I clearly went over 300 pounds. And I entered into a weight loss bet with a bunch of people at church, a bunch of guys, my pastor and my son. And it was about losing percentage of body fat. This was in 2016. Unfortunately, what happened was there was a guy in our church who owned a CrossFit, and he said anybody who goes to the church only has to pay $50 to go to the CrossFit. Well, if you know anything about CrossFit, that's a ridiculously cheap amount. And when 90% of your clientele are only paying $50 a month,
you go out of business.
You can't stay in business. So he closed down, and I was like, what do I do now? You know, I was finally having a little bit of success with losing some weight. Well, Danny Vega had just recently moved from our church to over here on the West Coast in the Tampa area, but he had left rumblings of keto. And so I went to Rachel. I'm like, I want to try this keto thing. And she was like, only if you, it doesn't cost our family any money, because we were poor. You know, we were surviving on $3 a day to feed a family of 5. And so I said, okay. In the middle of all of this, I'm a high school football and lacrosse official. And I had come to the realization that I could no longer officiate. The pain from my ankle was so excruciating that I couldn't walk for like 3 or 4 days after doing games. And I had gone to the doctor, and the doctor said, at this point, you need an ankle replacement surgery. The only problem with that is it's going to be a 2-year recovery. Well, I made all my money from being a landscaper and an official. So I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I figured I'd get through the season. In the meantime, I had started keto, and over the course of about 5 or 6 months, I lost about 80 pounds. And I came home after, now we were in football season. I will never forget, I came home from a game, and Rachel went to give me a painkiller, because that was normally what we would do, is she would say, hey, do you need a painkiller? Because I'd worked 4 games that day. And all of a sudden I realized, I was like, I haven't taken a painkiller in 6 months. And that was like the light, because I started keto to lose weight and did not know about all of the health benefits. And I have never had that surgery now 8.5 years later.
And after Joe realized what was going on with his mobility, and I saw that the man that I pushed in a wheelchair on our honeymoon was not going to need a wheelchair to tote his grandchild around Disney World. When I saw that his future was going to be different, I decided to jump on with him. I had tried keto previously, but by the time Joe was doing keto, I had been a lifelong dieter. I'm talking about, I was on a diet by the time I was 8 years old. I was well over 300 pounds as well. And
professional yo-yoer.
I was a professional dieter. And I was so afraid of food by the time Joe comes to keto that I had been eating nothing but 500 calories a day of exclusively yogurt with a dollop of Greek yogurt on top of it, oatmeal with a dollop of Greek yogurt on top of it, 500 calories a day religiously for 2 solid years. And I managed to gain 70 pounds on that. My body, I was so sick. I was so unwell. My skin was green. My hair was falling out, but I was absolutely petrified of food. I thought anything that I eat is going to cause me to gain weight. And so when Joe goes keto, I go on initially with him. However, after a week of keto, I get on the scale and I haven't lost any weight. Now, it has completely escaped my attention that I went from eating 500 calories a day of just oatmeal to probably closer to 2,500 calories a day in keto, and didn't gain any weight. But all I'm thinking is I haven't lost any weight. So I go back to just eating the oatmeal, but then he has this 6-month transformation in his life. And because I didn't want him to lose any like ground he had gained in his mobility, I agreed to go back on with him, with the one caveat was he would have to cook all of my food. He would have to cook all the food. And so that was the best bet I ever made with him, because he's still the primary cook in the house. And so I get to enjoy him as a cook. What I didn't realize when I started keto, and I will say for all the ladies out there who are starting a keto or carnivore protocol and you get really upset because your husband dumps a ton of weight and you don't dump a ton of weight, make sure you're checking your measurements, because I lost 0 pounds but went down several dress sizes like when I started keto. What I didn't realize about keto was the health benefits, just like Joe. I have struggled with mental health almost my entire life, more than 30 years, with doctors, medication, and every type of banner over your life that you can imagine, from social anxiety, bipolar, major depression, anything that you can think of. I've had that branded on my life. And the truth is, here I am, almost 9 years on keto. I am on no medication. I went through menopause without having to go on the antipsychotic medication that they said I was absolutely going to have to go on. I'm well. I'm able to speak. Before keto, I had a really hard time even leaving the house. I had such a small, closed off life. And now I feel like I am able to enjoy the life that God has given me. Like, I feel like I'm able to live out my purpose. I had no idea what nutrition would do, how many things that it influences. And I have to say, there was a little bit of anger that I had to go through because, I had to suffer the side effects. We had to suffer the budget of medicating mental health when, hot dogs and mustard would have done so much. But I am thankful for what keto and carnivore has done for us, not just for us, but also like for my mother. Quickly, I will just share that my father, after, we had started keto, my father passed away from a widowmaker heart attack. And I understood that when you lose one, a lot of times you can lose the other person because they've been married for like 50 years. And so she had been a type 2 diabetic for more than 20 years, and she had just gotten diagnosed with some heart blockages that were going to require stents. And so I pretty much pushed my lifestyle on her. I'm not somebody that tries to force somebody into keto, but I did leverage my relationship with my mother to get her started. And so she started for 2 months. And then we had to go into surgery for her to get those stents put into her heart. They wheel her into the back room to do the procedure, and they wheel her right back. And I thought, did we not sign something? What's wrong? And the doctor said, all the blockages are gone. We don't need to do the surgery. And so my mom and I just looked at one another and we're like, keep going. So 2 more months she was on keto, and her diabetes was completely put into remission. And to this day, she is no longer a diabetic. It was such a powerful moment to be there with my mother as they changed her, medical distinction in her medical file, and for her to be able to get off so many medications and to now be in her, late 70s, enjoying a life she didn't dream possible in her 50s.
Impressive stories. I have a special interest in diabetes because this guy here was using 300 units of insulin a day before I started. And it's not that I wasn't aware of a ketogenic diet. I had done Atkins for many years. I had even suggested every time I saw patients with diabetes, my patients, the first thing would be, cut the sugar, cut the grains, cut the flours, the breads, the pasta, and the potatoes, all the roots, and was successful helping those patients that listened. Not everybody listens, but I was not maybe doing it for myself. So the link of diabetes to heart disease is very interesting because the number one risk for coronary heart disease is not your cholesterol being a little high. It's having diabetes, having prediabetes, having metabolic syndrome, even PCOS. It's more of a risk for developing coronary heart disease than your cholesterol being a little high. The correlation is very small compared to multiple other risks. And many people, of course, don't believe there is a real correlation of cholesterol influencing coronary heart disease by itself when you're metabolically healthy. If everything else is wrong, yes, you're going to end up in with a heart attack, perhaps, or dying of a stroke or heart attack. But hopefully, I have a little bit fixed the camera angles here. Some people keep complaining about that, but I have a couple of questions, so let's go to that. And Jonathan, I don't know if I don't recognize your handle there, so you're new to the channel, and he says, "Isn't keto like horrible for your health?" I'm gonna let you guys answer that because
I would say that
in the stories that you just told me, it's the opposite, right? But go ahead, answer.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, you know, the lab work doesn't lie. You know, I know that a lot of times people can share things that are sort of, you know, just anecdotal, or, you know, you wonder what's a wives' tale or not. But one of the things that's been really important to us, you know, even after we did, you know, triple B and E for the first time, was to get all of our labs done and then allow people to see us be walked through with a doctor, you know, showing what the labs mean. And I think it's very important for us to be responsible and to continue to, you know, get our labs done, maintain the fact that, you know, my cholesterol is very high. I think that is some very beneficial for my brain health, to be honest. But our CAC score is still 0, you know? So, I mean, we don't have any blockages, and, you know, yes, the cholesterol is high, but like you're saying, I do not think that hasn't caused us any, you know, heart issues.
My question would be, when you say keto is not good for your health, compared to what? Compared to the standard American diet? I mean, it's funny. I joke about, you see things like protein powders or meal replacement shakes like Keto Chow, and they have to put on the package, this is not meant for children. How come they don't have to put that warning label on a box of Frosted Flakes
or candy
or Dino Nuggets? So Dino Nuggets, which are filled with flour and processed foods and sugars. I mean, heck, there's you go to the grocery store, there's literally sugar and salt. And you get the little thing of salt with the girl with the umbrella on it. There's
dextrose.
Sugar in there, right? So how come are we comparing it to the standard American diet? Then my thing would be that no, keto is not bad for your health. Keto is really what we always ancestrally ate. I mean, carnivore is a form of keto. It's just a stricter form of keto, but ancestrally, our ancestors, when I say ancestrally, I don't even go back to cavemen. Let's go back to pre-industrial revolution. We were talking about Ponce de Leon. Let's go back to Native Americans in the 15 and 16 and 1700s. What did they eat? They ate buffalo, whatever they could kill as they're going through the woods. If they came across berries or spices or herbs, they ate it when
Which
they
were
could.
Available only in a short period of time throughout the year.
Right. So, and that's my thing is, some people say, can you eat a vegetable or a fruit locally grown and in season? And I will tell you that for me, I'll even give you a little leeway and say locally grown within 300 miles. If you can get there within a day, I'll say that that's locally grown. But that means that if you live in Florida, you should probably never be eating an apple.
Because we don't grow them.
Because you can't get apples down here. If you live in Michigan, you should never eat a mango, because mangoes don't grow in Michigan. And so locally grown and in season, mangoes are only in season for 1 month out of the year. And so if you look at how we ate ancestrally, that's how we ate. We ate where mostly meat, And then if you came across something when it was in season, you ate it. And so I think that it is overall a very healthy thing. I mean, even if you compare to like veganism, you cannot get a lot of essential amino acids and vitamins through a vegan lifestyle. I think that it's a healthier lifestyle than veganism, especially when you look at the fact that we now farm in the United States on minerally depleted land. So there's barely any nutrients in any of the vegetables that you're possibly eating anyway.
That was a big factor for us when deciding where we were going to have our farm, because just because there were, 5-acre parcels available, we wanted land that hadn't formally been a citrus field because of everything that they spray plants with now. We knew that that was going to be going into the ground where our animals would eat grass and dig for bugs. We knew that that was going to be a part of our well system. We have a pond, and we knew that if this was previously an area where it was a heavily sprayed crops, then that was what the fish in our pond was going to have inside of it. So it was part of the search for us, was finding not just what was going to be the best options for nutrition for us, but also for the food that we eat. We want our chickens and, our turkeys and everything that we raise here to have the best possible life for themselves as well. And, we want their pasture raised experience to also be a healthy one. We don't want them to get sick.
I will say also, even for the cholesterol, I celebrate high cholesterol for myself because all of my other health markers are in perfect place. We have very low fasting insulin. Our triglycerides are under 40. But if you look at statistically, the people who live the longest have the highest cholesterol. So if I want to live a long time and the result is high cholesterol, I'll take that so long as all of my other health markers are in perfect place.
All righty. So this question has a little bit of the wrong geographical situation, but Papa Carnivore, Peter is his name. They live closer to you than you think.
Nice.
He's on the west coast of Florida here, I believe. Anyways, how is your farm and house renovations in North Florida going? Is his question.
So it's coming along. For people who don't know, when we bought this property a year ago, again, we ended up moving to where all of her ancestors are from. Not on purpose. It wasn't like this. In fact, I was always like, we're never moving there. But this was what we were looking for, where we can have some property close to things, 15 to 30 minutes away from stuff, but still things to do, but still have privacy and be able to raise animals. And when we looked around at property here, we had a small budget because we don't believe in having a mortgage or anything. And we were looking at different houses, and some of the newer, nicer houses were gorgeous, like a year or 2 years old, but they were on old orange groves, like 5 acres, not a tree on the property, no pond. And that was exactly what went through our mind, is like, how many chemicals were sprayed on this property for orange groves, where you looked at Google Earth just a year ago, there were still orange trees. So we found a piece of property that was beautiful, that was from a long family history with mature trees, but the house, they'd smoked in it for 15 years and everything was yellower than the wall behind me. And so we knew that if we wanted this piece of property, we would have to gut the house. And so for the last year, Rachel and I have gutted this house by ourselves to the studs and rebuilt it. And to me, that's amazing. I'll be 55 in a week and a half. And to think that at my age, I've been able to rebuild the house without help, without contractors, while we're doing all of our work, and having that energy has been amazing. So we're hoping to actually be able to move into the house before the end of the year. We just finished up the second bathroom, which was Rachel's condition to move in. There's still a lot of work. There's still 2 more rooms to renovate and replace all the windows, but it is livable.
It's coming along. Once we started caring for our animals, their houses are beautiful and done. We concentrate our efforts on the turkeys and the chickens.
Because it takes time we wanted to make sure we had food.
Right. And we also needed to build mobile coops, because even for our meat birds, we wanted something where that they could be moved every single day to fresh grass and land so that they could also have a pasture raised experience, but more protected. I don't know if you've ever seen a meat bird before. Much different makeup, much heavier bird. And they have a hard time kind of getting around. So they can't run from a predator like our leaner laying hens can.
Are you still in the RV or did you move into the house yet?
We are still living in the RV.
Okay.
But so we sleep in the RV, but our cooking and using the shower and everything is in the house. We just actually haven't moved into the house because, again, we travel. We've got our community cruise coming up next week, and we speak at conferences. So, it's rebuilding the house with just 2 people or 1.5 people, because Rachel is really my helper. In the midst of all of this, it's taken us some time. But we've learned that we can live very minimalistically in a very small, 30-foot RV. And I would never give this up. I wouldn't, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it again.
I think that this is probably, if we can be a blessing to anybody today, this is probably your sign to make sure you're getting in some strength training, because you never know what the next chapter of your life is going to be. And one thing I definitely don't regret is starting to pursue strength training. So I would say about 2 years ago now, I just had it in my heart that, okay, Rachel, you lost weight, you feel fantastic in your body. Now's the time to start building up some muscle. And, the bad thing about keto and carnivore is you can lose a tremendous amount of weight without moving your body at all. Like, just the food really helps. The proper nutrition makes such a difference. But I didn't want to be that person who always hated movement. I wanted to encourage everybody to start moving their bodies and get in some strength training. And so I started to pursue that. And boy, am I glad that I did, because yes, we are now empty nesters. Our 3 strapping young men that we have raised has gone on, for their own lives. And so it's just me and Joe. And so if we are moving a bale of hay or a refrigerator, it's me on the other side of that refrigerator now. So I'm really thankful to be stronger. And so if you've been keto or carnivore for a little bit of time, maybe you're like me and you drag your feet a little bit when it comes to moving your body and starting to develop some muscles. But I definitely encourage you to do that.
So when was it that you moved into the property?
We moved right around the hurricane last year. So we had closed like the first week of September, but then, we were still living in the other house. And then right around when the hurricane, in fact, we were going up to go to Ketopalooza when the hurricane hit. And I stayed behind because I was just like, I can't leave and go away for a week, not knowing if when we come home, we won't have a house, because we don't even have homeowners insurance. And so I stayed behind until after the storm. And then when we came back from Ketopalooza, which was the first week of October, we made the decision that, pretty much we're just going to park the RV here and live on the property in the RV while we work on it. Because the original plan was come for a week, then take the RV back to our house in Fort Lauderdale. But we knew that wouldn't work. So we've been pretty much living full time on the property since last October.
So I met you just before you moved, August last year. And I've seen you a couple of times since then. And I can tell you that I have noticed the difference that your physical labor has made on you. Both of you look great. And this morning I was talking to a friend of yours, Sarah, and she makes the comment, "Oh, have you noticed the guns on Rachel?"
It is, I think you have to find what you can enjoy. I was never somebody that was interested in spending a lot of time in a gym. Like that wasn't super appealing to me, but taking care of things really appealed to me. And being outside is something that really gives me life. So getting in, the sunlight, having kind of a farm schedule, our circadian rhythm has really appreciated the move because we do have a like sun up to sundown schedule now, which previously when we were in South Florida, we lived, that modern, it looked the same in our house at 12:30 at night as it did at 10 a.m. in the morning because of all of the lights. And, you could go until noon before even stepping outside, right? Because we don't even have milk delivered or a newspaper being delivered. So all your work can be done inside and you can just not go outside at all. And so I'm so thankful that because I have this farm to take care of and these animals that need me and the house that needs renovated, we are outside all the time and we are up with the chickens, and we go to sleep about close to after that time. And it's been really good for us. It's been good for our eating window. I know some people have a challenge of snacking after dark. Certainly that was something that Joe struggled with in particular, but I think that this schedule has really helped.
It definitely has. I mean, when it gets dark here, you can't see your hand in front of your face. There are no street lights. So, and up until a week ago, we had no lights outside of the house. So it really is, when it's dark, and it really has helped us to, okay, it's getting dark to start winding down. But it's funny you mentioned like Rachel's guns. Yeah. When we for us, everything is a budget. We're on a strict budget. We are way over our budget on working on the house, but we bought the flooring for the house a year ago, knowing we're going to need flooring, but it was on super ultra clearance. It was $5 a square foot on sale for $2.50 a square foot. And we bought it. We had to go to 3 different flooring cores to pick it up. And then we get home and Rachel's like, I'm like, okay, we got to bring it all in the house. We got to store it in the house. And it was 6,000 pounds of flooring
that had to be
moved from my truck into the house, just the 2 of us.
How has that affect the move and the sun up, sun down, no lights around the property? Has that affect your sleep?
My sleep is the best it's ever been. I'm notorious. If you watch our videos from the last 8 years, since we started our channel in 2018, I would average 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. I'm very bad with sleep. I'm also a person who I'm always thinking, I always want to work. About a year ago, Rachel, actually, right around when we were moving here, because part of it out of necessity, but I was the person that would, okay, we're going to wind down at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. We'll watch some television together. Rachel would go to sleep by 9 o'clock, 9:30. And I would be back out on my computer till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, editing videos, doing my hobbies. Like I love 3D printing, different things like that. And so I would go to bed by like 3 in the morning. And then when she got up at 5 or 6, I would wake up with her so that we can pray together. Moving here, Rachel was like, I need that to stop. I need you to, like, when it's time to, when the day is done, your day is done. And because we were living in the RV and I don't have a place to escape to, another bedroom or my office or anything, it helped me to say, okay, so at 7 o'clock, my day is over, and whatever we have to do, it's going to have to wait till tomorrow. Now it was a little bit of a detriment to our YouTube channel when our full-time job is YouTube. And for about 7 months or 8 months, only up until the last couple months, we were like, we're not editing videos because we've got to get moved into this house. We've got these other things. So we went from 5 videos a week to like maybe 3 videos a week. And 1 or 2 of those would be live streams. But we felt that our health was more important. And so that helped. And then also just the idea of being in the dark, it really helped me to start winding down. Because again, when you're always exposed to streetlights and your computers and all that, you can't just look at your screens and your laptop or your computer and then like go, okay, I'm going to sleep. It takes an hour to wind down from being exposed to all the blue light on your screens, or even if it's not, you're not looking at the screen, just the LED lights in your house. And so not having the exposure to that has really helped me, where I sleep now probably 6 to 8 hours a night.
And that can be the unsticking point. A lot of times people, like, you know, you hit a really stubborn plateau and you're like, man, my nutrition is on point. Well, that's about 80% of it. But you have to factor in that other 20%, which is stress and sleep and movement. And I think that the changes that we've made, that's moved the needle. That was the last 20% that we really needed to work on personally.
And this is the channel. There's only one couple, that's the 2KrazyKetos. You search for that name, you're not going to find anyone else. And it's KrazyKetos with a K, by the way. So go subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And I believe it's the same throughout social media, right? Your other,
Yes.
Just 2KrazyKetos.
We focus on community. I mean, we do a lot of different things. We'll do like what we eat in a day vlogs, and we'll do recipes, and we do informational videos, but we really focus on community. And that's why we say everybody is welcome in our community. And whether you're a keto or you're carnivore or you're a part-time keto, it doesn't matter, because I believe that you cannot get healthy. You cannot have a good diet if you don't have a good support system.
Well, and thank you so much for having us on today, Dr. Nelson. And it's nice to meet everybody if we've never had the blessing of being able to meet you before. And we look forward to chatting with you if you ever need us.
All right. I have one more question. This guy I like a lot. I put it there just so I wouldn't forget it. What are your top 3 absolutely essential time-saving meal prep hacks for busy people who want to stay strict keto or carnivore? What can you live without? What can't you live without in your kitchen? And also, how do you handle the cravings?
I will say, okay, so as far as like essential things for meal prep, ground beef is your friend. I think ground beef is the best thing to eat. Yeah, ribeyes are great. I'm actually not a ribeye person. I'm a New York strip person. Rachel is a ribeye person.
Ribeye.
But eating a good 80-20 ground beef is your best friend. You're getting a perfect fat to protein ratio in there, and you can pre-prepare it. You will never go in our refrigerator where there's not a couple of pounds of ground beef that have been cooked up and ready to go. So there's never an excuse for us to go, oh, well, there's nothing to eat, because ground beef is so versatile. You could add some spices to it. You can eat it plain. You could mix in some egg with it. It is, to me, the perfect thing. Along with that, eggs. I mean, it takes seconds to cook up eggs. And I think eggs is probably the most nutritious thing that you can eat. I mean, think about it. Eggs literally bring life.
Another one for us lately has been Packer briskets, because they just, we make them and then they go so far. You can cook a brisket on Saturday or Sunday, and if you get a Packer brisket from Sam's Club, an 18-pound brisket at the current prices will cost you about $90, and it's more than enough food for the entire week. And so you literally cook it up and then you're done. You have food for the whole week already cooked. And we literally spent all last week. We had our friends Chris and Miriam from Salty. They came and visited us. We cooked a brisket on Monday, Sunday night into Monday, and we ate it with them. We ate it all week long, and I still have 4 pounds left in the freezer, divided into 1.5 pound cups, or I guess 6 pounds of it. As far as what we can't live without in our kitchen, man. I'll give you 3. First of all, I think all kitchen devices for keto and carnivore should be classified as medical devices so that we can write them off on our taxes. The 3 things that I would recommend to anybody, I'll give you one that's not a kitchen appliance. I think that anybody who's keto or carnivore should have some kind of a pellet grill smoker. You don't need a big one, but pellet smokers, literally, if you remember years ago what Ron Popeil and the rotisserie thing, set it and forget it. A pellet smoker literally can turn anybody into a perfect backyard smokehouse
expert.
Even me.
You can literally put a brisket in there. You set it up the night before at 170 degrees on the lowest temperature, wake up the next morning, crank it up to 210, and about 5 hours later, you have a great brisket. It's almost impossible to screw up a pellet smoker because it does all the work for you. And there's so many things you can just throw on that you literally, it 5 minutes to prepare and just wait. And inside of the kitchen is the person who is the chef. I'd say if there's two things that you should have in your kitchen, it would be an air fryer and an Instant Pot, because it allows you to meal prep and cook quickly.
So for the past 2 days, I've been having a carnivore soup I made. I think my oldest son, I would say he's keto. My wife is keto. And we like soup. But of course, the old way of making soup was putting, first of all, potatoes and a bunch of, some of them even high carb vegetables. I still will make soup for them with a lot less carbs in them. But yesterday I took some chicken broth. I beat like 8 eggs and then did an egg drop soup style, putting the egg while searing the soup, and then cut up a ribeye steak, because my favorite is ribeye. My second favorite, by the way, is picanha. I'll if there is not available anything else, I'll have a New York strip. But that was my carnivore soup. I did put some spices, so it came out so good that this morning I sort of repeated it with a little bit of broth that was left over. I put some more broth and another ribeye steak and more eggs. Now this time I put the whole egg. I broke the shell and put the whole egg in the soup, which is actually how I prefer, because I like eating that yolk.
Yes.
And having that texture of the yolk in my mouth. So that was it. That's a carnivore soup.
It's delicious. I mean, it's so nice when we make chili. It's funny because, obviously our chili is different. Joe's won awards with his chili, but it doesn't have beans and it doesn't have rice in it. Some of the things it used to
It's
put
literally
in it.
Beef and bacon.
It's so good. But the thing is that the way we used to cook things that sometimes we're really super protective of, like within a family, heritage, we can be really protective of the way that we cook certain things to like honor the way it's always been done. But the truth is that a lot of times when we added things like rice or pasta or potatoes, it was to stretch it. It was because of out of poverty, right? It was out of trying. My great grandmother even used to put grits in her coffee grounds to make the coffee stretch. And so now, what a blessing it is. It's an opportunity at mealtime for us when we are not adding all of those extra ingredients like potatoes and rice. It's not a moment for you to reflect on, man, I'm deprived and I don't get to have the things that I used to. For me, it's a time of gratefulness that I'm so thankful that I can, eat the meat. I can have a soup or a stew that is primarily out of really abundance. It's so beautiful to be able to not have to add those things and not have to stretch it the way that maybe, our ancestors had to.
Yeah, it's funny. I just finished, for the last couple of days, I've been making a bunch of bone broth. And so we processed 50 chickens a few weeks ago. So I had all these chicken feet in my freezer, and I'm like, well, I want to get them out of my freezer. So I processed, I'm up to like 14 quarts of bone broth, and then I'm canning it in my pressure canner so I can put it up on the shelf. Now our bone broth, which is literally just Redmond salt and water and chicken feet boiled down for 20 hours, you can literally cut it with a knife. When you put it in the refrigerator, it is jello. You can like cut it with a knife and eat it with a fork. And so I started going today. I was going, you know what?
Collagen and gelatin.
That's all it is. Right. And, and it's super healthy for you. But I was like, man, I've got this pressure canner. And again, I'm thinking always about sustainability. Well, what if I found a bunch of cheap stew meat and I can a bunch of what you're just talking about, like make some beef or carnivore soup And, so I'm like, well, what can I put in there to make it a stew? And then I started thinking, why do I need to put anything in there other than a bunch of meat? Maybe like a little bit of onion or something, but just, you know what? I'm going to throw a bunch of raw beef, hot water, pressure can it for 2 hours. And then I've got shelf stable up on the shelf. And whenever we want carnivore soup, but it's basically just cooked beef, I've got it. It's such an interesting way to eat. Rachel mentioned even, all that is filler food. We get messages from people all the time like, I can't get enough food in. I'm just not that hungry. What do I do? I'm like, if you are at a place where you get full very quickly, there better not be anything on your plate other than meat, because you have to look at nutrient density. So if you want to have a salad, after you finish all your meat, then you can have a salad.
That's a
but
dessert.
If we have to think opposite of the way we were taught, where eat your salad first, and then you've got your rice, your potatoes, all of your vegetables, and you have a little small portion of meat. Your plate, if you're eating anything other than meat, should be 90% meat, and you can't have the other stuff until all the meat is done, because that's where all of your nutrients are. I remember years ago, Roseanne, there was an episode of Roseanne where Roseanne Barr, her character, was teaching these kids how to cook and stretch for a large family. And she bought potato chips. And she's like, a bag of potato chips stretches 1 pound of ground beef to feed a family of 6. But that's what we did, right? We stretched everything by giving all of this other stuff. But if you eliminate all that stuff, you don't even need as much meat, because you're getting more nutrient density from that little bit of meat.
Isn't that what meatloaf is? Some beef with some extra stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, so briefly, we're almost at the top of the hour, but you guys have, I believe, 2 more channels. So you do other stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with keto, but tell us about it.
So we have 2KrazyKetos was where we started. And then we started to have so much energy that we wanted to be more active. We wanted to get off the couch and be able to go explore. And so we started RVing. And once we did start RVing, we realized that a lot of people kind of use their retirement as like an opportunity to start RVing themselves. But what was sad was we would get to RV parks and different campgrounds and see that people weren't leaving their camper. They were just, they didn't feel well enough to go beyond just parking themselves in that parking space. And so we thought, well, we would love to be a blessing to the RV community. Maybe we can help people in the keto and carnivore space start moving their bodies and going on adventures. And maybe we could help people in the RV community to take a look at their nutrition. And so we started 2Krazy Campers, both with K's, just like 2KrazyKetos. And we were blessed last year to participate in a reality show that was called RV Unplugged Season 2. If you ever want to see it, it's on YouTube still. And it was just fun being able to push the limits on that. And then we did start another channel.
Yeah. I mean, with the camping thing, our whole thing is like, Rachel mentioned RVing, and I'm like, that's not camping. I'm an Eagle Scout. Camping is going through the woods and using sticks and building a shelter. But what we realized quickly was that RVing isn't about camping. It's about exploring this country. You just get to bring your hotel room with you. And, we noticed that we really, after losing the weight, we were doing the same routine. We laid on a couch and watched TV. And so that's why the motto for both of our channels is live life beyond the couch. As you're getting healthy, don't keep doing the same thing you were doing. Do something. You don't have to go RVing, but I mean, I taught Rachel to scuba dive. I became a scuba diving instructor. We go kayaking, whatever, just do something with your newfound health. And then last year when we decided to start this farm, we decided to start a 3rd channel. I don't know why, but basically about homesteading, documenting the building of the house. And then, as we move forward and finish it, the building of the house, it'll really be about how to be more self-sufficient, like literally 2 city people learning how to raise a farm.
I think that our desire is always to go before somebody who's maybe thinking about doing something, but they're a little bit scared. I want to be that person that can go ahead and show how it can be made possible. So when we live out our keto, we live it out in front of everybody. They see the ups and downs of our life. I think that's important for nobody to think that, oh, wow, you go keto carnivore and suddenly you have no stressors in your life, right? I think it's important to live through the stressors in front of people. I think it's important for people to see us like try new things, whether it's, somebody who's had mobility issues their entire life, trying to get up on a standing paddleboard and do some new adventure, or start walking, hiking, and doing some more things that are challenging for somebody who's never done it before. Hopefully we can inspire people to try new things. And then, lastly, when it comes to sustainability, we are well aware we're city mice. And so when we are learning to raise things and process the chickens, we want to show people, what tools are we using? How affordable is it? What do you need to prepare if this is something that you're interested in doing and starting maybe just a small backyard flock? Like when we got started, back in South Florida, what does that look like? How much will it cost you? And what's the payoff?
We're at the top of the hour. I do have one more question. What's next for the 2KrazyKetos community?
Well, right now like I said, hopefully we're going to get in the house soon. For our community, like I said, we focus on community. For us, it is all about community. So the biggest place we like to focus on community is in our Mighty Networks group. You can find it at members.2KrazyKetos.com. It is a free group. Now, we do have some paid options for people who want to support us financially. But it's a place where people can open up, ask questions, inspire, and encourage each other. So every year we go on a cruise with people. It's open up to everybody. We try to find a cheap cruise. I became a travel agent so that I can do these group cruises. So we actually have 2 of them coming up, December 4th through the 8th and the 8th through the 13th. We've got about 60 people that are going on a back-to-back set of cruises with us. We have another one next year. We'll be on the low-carb cruise.
Are you sold out on both of those?
This year's is only in a week and so, like you would have to, whatever the current rates are. I know most of the cruises sold out. Next year, we do have about, I think, 20 cabins left for next year's, which is in October. We limit it to 100 people because, again, it's about community. And so we eat dinner together. We do different activities together. It's kind of like open to anybody, family, friends, or whatever. And the only thing we really do together, that we all eat together in the dining room. And then different members of our community arrange different activities like scavenger hunts or maybe hide ducks, just so that we can all be together as a community. And then, like I said, we'll be on the low carb cruise and, just really trying to be out there and inspiring people. And then at some point, Rachel is in the middle of writing an amazing book that hopefully we will have available by next year.
Yeah.
All righty. So thank you for being here. Thank you. Please come back at some point.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can have you come and talk to within the Zoom community, the Kiltz Mighty Tribe. We're also Mighty Networks. The Kiltz Mighty Tribe. We have 3 Zoom calls during the week, and maybe we can arrange for you to.
Oh, we would love to
be there as well. And I think we need to push Dr. Kiltz to go to a cruise, because he hasn't gotten on a cruise. I think.
We're not going to have to get him onto a cruise. That would be a blast.
We have a big time. We really do. It's just it's like a nice family reunion, especially when you have so many of us we've met online, right? And you see like this beautiful chat that's going, all of these comments from all these precious people that you get to see daily. And it's just so precious to get together and spend a week just hanging out, having meals together, getting breakfast together. We do a 5K. So like walking in the mornings and playing games. And it's just such a wonderful opportunity to be real life friends, right?
And for people who might be interested in going on that cruise with us next year in October, there is a link on our website, 2KrazyKetos.com, with all of the information. It's extremely inexpensive. It's out of Port Canaveral here in Orlando, Florida. And an ocean view balcony is like $1,500 for 2 people. That's not per person. It's $1,500 for 2 people.
And that's how many days?
And it's for a 7-night cruise. An interior cabin is about $800 for 2 people. And that's port fees, taxes, everything included.
That's pretty cheap.
All righty. 2KrazyKetos.com. You can go there, be a member of the community. These are great people. And thank you for being here once again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Those who are within the Kiltz tribe, I'll see you at 5:30. And you have a good day. And
Thanks, Dr. Nelson.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
Absolutely,
you.
too.
All right.